All right, welcome back. You should have been busy reading Animal Farm. By now, we should be done with chapter 1. It's only about 10 pages long. Luckily, it's a really short book. And today's lesson is just going over some of the components of chapter 1, the key takeaways, some questions you might have, revisiting some history, some persuasive techniques, and hopefully going through a few of the worksheet questions that you've been turning in. Just to remind you, your attendance is being counted by the assignments that you're turning in. And we also are shifting, now that we're all doing the same novel at the same time, we're going more for accuracy than completion. So be sure that you're reading and responding to the questions. And, it's completely manageable, just a few pages a day. So, chapter 1, Animal Farm. With this lesson, again, we're going to revisit some literary terms, recap the events of chapter 1, and dig a little deeper, connecting some persuasive and propaganda techniques and strategies to the chapter itself, because we do have a really key moment with Old Major's speech. So let's revisit first the genres of Animal Farm. This seemed to trip some people up. Animal Farm is three things at once. It's a fable, and a fable is a story that uses animals to relate a message to human beings about themselves. This is done so many different ways by so many different people. If you've ever seen, a Disney movie, you've already interacted with the fable. So it says a story with animals is characters conveying a message to humans about humanity. For whatever reason, it's easier to hear things, critiques and criticisms about ourselves as people that's not coming from other people. We're willing to listen to a talking character instead of, another person telling us about ourselves. Animal Farm is also an allegory. This one is not new. We've been dealing with allegories over and over the school year. An allegory is a story that functions on two levels. There's the literal level, what is literally happening on the pages in the story. So we literally have a group of farm animals that have a meeting in a barn. But there's that deeper level, there's the figurative level where we're telling another story. And the other story that's being told is the Russian Revolution and other revolutions. It's deeper, it's more meaningful, and it's usually, allegories, their deeper meaning is usually moral or political. And lastly, Animal Farm is a satire, and a satire is a criticism that uses irony, humor, and over exaggeration to expose or point out people's flaws in context of political issues. So, the events of chapter 1, I picked a few key things that you're going to take away. First, we meet Farmer Jones, Mr. Jones, and it says a lot how we meet him when we first meet him. He's drunk. It's the end of the day. And we can infer a lot about him, that he's put in a lot of hours, but also that he's probably not somebody we're going to trust. His drinking habits certainly factor into an event that happens later, in the next two chapters. It really spurs on the revolution that these animals are planning to have. We have a big meeting in the barn. Old Major gathers all the farm animals because he had a dream, and his dream later becomes a vision for how life on the farm could be for the animals. His vision is a farm ran by animals for animals, benefiting the animals, where the fruits of their labor goes to them, where the cow's milk goes to the cow's children, the baby cows, and the grain that they plant in the fields, it feeds them instead of the humans. It's very idealistic, and it's a perfect plan. And what we know about life is that nothing ever goes perfectly, but it's a really good foundation for a plan of how life could be. We learn through his speech that they all have a common enemy, and the common enemy is man. Man is the only creature, because man is technically an animal also, the only creature that contributes nothing to the world. The animals, they are laboring. They pull carts. Their poop fertilizes the fields. I know it's gross, but it's true. Their milk feeds humans. Their eggs feed humans. Their bodies feed humans. When they die, they're turned into glue, glue sticks. Your Elmer's glue. There's a cow on it. Gelatin. These are all byproducts of animals, but they benefit humans. Man contributes nothing. We cover that animals, once they do achieve their freedom and their own liberty, they will never, ever, ever do the things that humans do. They're never going to live in a house. They're never going to wear clothes. They're never going to treat other animals badly. They're never going to drink alcohol. It's important to pay attention to those things to see if they change throughout the course of the book, because they will. And we also cover that all animals are equal. No animal is better than any other animal. And I'm not sure if you can see it behind the picture of me, but they start singing a song which becomes, the rally anthem of the revolution, Beasts of England. They sing it over and over and over until it becomes like a wild frenzy. They're all singing in their distinct animal voices, because although we can read that they speak words and communicate, humans can't understand what they're saying, so it just sounds like animal noises. And Farmer Jones shoots blindly into the barn at the animals and breaks up their meetings. But Beasts of England is a significant song because it conveys the message of the revolution, that the animals, right now they're wearing bits, which are, metal, kind of like leashes for your mouth. They pull your head in the direction the human wants you to go if you're an animal. And they have spurs on their feet and, horseshoes, and they get whipped when they don't behave the way that the humans want. And the song is about breaking free of all those tools of oppression and flourishing in a new world, a new society by them, for them. So you had a couple questions that I fielded in your survey from chapter 1, and I picked 5 of them and I put them on here so we could discuss them a little deeper. The first question: why are the animals suffering? Although we have family pets and, we treat them pretty well, it's unfortunate to this day that there are animals who are used for work purposes: horses, cows, chickens, pigs. They don't get treated as family pets. They're serving a purpose, and their life isn't cozy and lush and comfortable. So the animals are suffering because they're being worked very, very hard. And they say they're not getting enough food. They're doing too much work. They're not getting enough rest. They don't have enough food. They're kind of bitter because there's no benefit to their hard work. Nothing is benefiting them. It just all gets kicked up to Mr. Jones, which is similar to the Russian Revolution. We'll get to that in a minute. What's with the poem, Beast of England? It's a song, but you're not entirely wrong. Poems and songs are cousins. But again, it's the ideals of the revolution, breaking free from the oppressive tools and the oppressors, and, ending suffering and starting a beautiful new life, a new society that's governed by them, governed by equals, benefiting them. Is there really a connection to the Russian Revolution? Yes, there is. If we're focusing on context here, historically, chapter 1 is the predecessor to that Bolshevik revolution. Think back to our notes. Right now, Russia, if we're aligning it with our book, it's under the rule of Tsar Nicholas II. The people of Russia, much like the animals on the farm, are suffering. They're working very, very, very hard. They're contributing, they're kicking up, their profit or the fruit of their labor to Tsar Nicholas, which would be Farmer Jones. They're seeing very little reward for their hard work. They're hungry, they're poor. the conditions are brutal, and it's tough. And so they start gathering and brainstorming and starting a movement for how to make life better, how to reward themselves, how to break free of the system that is clearly failing them. Why are the animals treated badly? I think we covered that. Farmer Jones, he he values them as tools of his work, but not as lives, not as creatures, not as souls inhabiting their little animal bodies. And lastly, is anyone going to die? Well, spoiler alert, just like every book we've read all year, every story, yes, characters are going to die. And sadly, it's one of our favorite characters that we grow to love. So, digging a little deeper, digging back up those literary terms and the persuasive techniques, propaganda techniques. We're actually going to employ the propaganda techniques. We're going to focus on ethos, pathos, and logos today, because Old Major in his speech, he has an example of all of them. So ethos, pathos, logos, this is the appeals, the persuasive appeals to logic and to ethic and to emotion. So our first quote from Old Major's speech, he says, "Comrades, you have heard already about the strange dream that I had last night, but I will come to that dream later. I have something else to say first. I do not think, comrades, that I shall be with you for many months longer, and before I die, I feel it my duty to pass on to you such wisdom as I have acquired. I have had a long life. I've had much time for thought as I lay alone in my stall." So this is definitely pathos, because Old Major is appealing to their emotion. Death is sad, parting is sad, and he's kind of both scaring them and saddening them and spurring them on to his new ideals through mentioning, the shortness of his life and how his life is coming to an end. They all clearly respect him because they showed up, and life without him is going to be very different. The other quote from Old Major: "Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile, its climate is good, it is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormously greater number of animals than now inhabit it. This single farm of ours would support 12 horses, 20 cows, hundreds of sheep, and all of them living in a comfort and a dignity that are now almost beyond our imagining." This is logos, right? Logos, appealing to fact and reason. He statistically quantifies, the product that could be increased and benefit the animals if we got rid of humans. And lastly, I think you know which one's coming. The last quote says, "I've had a long life. I've had much time for thought as I lay low in my stall, and I think I may say that I understand the nature of life on this earth as well as any animal now living. It is about this that I wish to speak to you." This is ethos, because ethos is, respecting someone's position as an authoritarian figure or as an expert, and with his age comes expertise. So we've clear examples, and there are more. This isn't it. This is just from the first paragraph, really. The speech goes on to employ the use of ethos, pathos, and logos, the persuasive appeals. And, if you want extra credit, point out another example of one or two. So that's it for the slides. Now I want to go to your worksheet from the other day. Let me click out of here and open the worksheet. You have a copy of this. And I don't really want to go through all of the answers, but just touch on a few things. So the worksheet for number 1, you are comparing and contrasting Karl Marx's theory of communism with Old Major's theory of animalism. Animalism is this new system, by the animals, for the animals. And You're identifying the enemy of that cause, who would be in charge once things are different, which is kind of a trick question because it's going to be similar for both. And lastly, how the resources will be shared and distributed. For number 2, I need you to tell me, in one word, what kind of animal these characters are, what type of animal these characters are. For example, is Clover a sheep? Is Clover a chicken? Is Clover a dog? Whatever she is, identify what she is for her. And the following ones. Number 3 and 4, you're recalling the historical figure that the characters are based on. It would benefit you to go back into your notes that I provided for you. They're still in our Google Classroom. Number 5, you are being asked for a citation. This is the author's last name and the page number from where the information is coming. What evidence is there that Old Major is highly regarded by the other farm animals? Obviously, it's that they're sacrificing their sleep to show up to his meeting, but I need you to find that sentence in the story and write it word for word and include the author's last name and the page number. Number 6, you're thinking. You're going to make some connections, and you have a quote from the story. And first, Farmer Jones and all humans are benefiting from the hard labor of animals on the farm. How is that similar to feudalism and a king like Tsar Nicholas benefiting from the hard labor of the peasants? I don't know if you're aware, but in countries that are ruled by kings or czars, they have to kick up a certain amount of money or product to that king. They're not just staying on that land for free. It's kind of like how we pay taxes, but way worse. And part 2 to that, what kind of people nowadays monetarily benefit from the hard labor of others in this day and age? Now, if I give you an example, you can't use this example. You have to think of something else. But all of us live close to a Walmart, and they're fully staffed even now with people working to stock shelves and check customers out. But they're not getting rich from working at Walmart. In fact, most of them are making just minimum wage, even right now, I think, during the pandemic. Who from Walmart would be benefiting from the hard work of the people in the stores? All right, so you can't use that example. You got to think of your own example. Think of a different company, think of something else, but I want you to make the connection. Who nowadays is benefiting from the hard work of people in their industry, in their company? And then number 7, just recap, go back into the story. You don't need a citation for this one, but tell me 2 things that animals are never, ever, ever going to do once man is removed from their equation, from their life. And lastly, number 8, I want you to remember what abruptly ended their meeting. They're singing, they're carrying on, they're going through Beasts of England over and over and over. So what stopped their meeting? All right, so that's the recap of chapter 1. We'll try to do this again tomorrow for chapter 2, and I'm going to try to figure out how to end this video now. All right.